I don't have any coins, but I do have a comic to throw in the wishing well.
Never throw a comic in the wishing well.
West Coast Avengers, don't throw comics in the wishing well.
Welcome to the West Coast Avengers. You know comics. I like comics. Sing about your comic books. I like comics. Do you like comics? What's going on, folks? YouTube people of all places, all races, all nations, all sizes. All we are saying is give comics a chance. Welcome back to another week of the West Coast Avengers. It's Sunday. Everybody's in. The ceremony is about to begin. So, another week working in the secret spot somewhere in Washington. I am organizing the books, and they will be...
Just being able to go through stock of stuff that people haven't seen before and have first crack, that's great. And there is so much of it to go through.
I also found somebody on the interwebs, you know, like where Spiderman hangs out, that sold me a whole bunch of big Spiderman keys. And we're going to go through everything. Plenty of weird stuff, plenty of superhero books. Let's get started. Giant Size Man-Thing number 4. Yes, it is called Giant Size Man-Thing. I did not make that up. A very unique book with a story that was way ahead of its time, written by Steve Gerber in 1975. Gerber was writing some interesting stuff. He created Howard the Duck. Giant Size Man-Thing number 4 is just a really hard-hitting story about bullying and a kid in high school that gets bullied and ends up dying. I'm not going to ruin the rest of it. If you have the Marvel app or you have this book, just read it. You won't be disappointed by the art, but it is very text-heavy, but also a very hard-hitting story that was written 46 years ago. More comic books should have something to say. I picked this up from Comics on Instagram. Maddie, one of the best guys in the comic business. He does claim sales every Thursday. Check him out. Give him a follow. I'll throw his link down in the description below. Next up, this was part of the collection that I bought. I got a shout out. It's Captain America number 107. Jack Kirby, Red Skull's in there. Just beautiful art. Classic Silver Age Cap. Bucky comes back to life, and the first appearance of Dr. Faustus. Next up, this was a discovery. Something I had never seen before. What? X-Men and Star Trek, 1996, Marvel Comics. Check it out. Enterprise Crew, illustrated by Mark Silvestri. There's some David Finch in here, Billy Tan, Anthony Wynn. It's like one of those all-star, okay, we can't get Silvestri to do the whole book, so we'll get his people, his clones. Get some Wolverine popping the claws on the Starship Enterprise. And I'm not a huge Star Trek fan by any means, but just the fact that this came out in 1996, I'm just discovering this 25 years later. It's wild. There's some great pinups in the back, so... if you see it in the dollar bin or even the $2 bin, worth picking up. Star Trek and X-Men. Enough said, right? Along with that collection that I picked up this week, I saw Todd and I bought Todd. Spawn number 1, Spawn number 2, and number 3. These are the newsstand variants, which are super, super, super hard to come by. Newsstand comics kind of dried up in the early to mid-90s, especially Image Comics. Worth picking up because it's almost double the value, sometimes even more, of the regular book. Unfortunately, Spawn number 1 is not a newsstand. When you see Todd, you buy Todd.
Tons of heavy metal, epic magazine.
Heavy Metal Magazine, legendary magazine, started in the late 70s. Everybody has worked on this magazine. This issue, which is from May of 1979, you get stories from Rick Veitch, John Workman, Richard Corbin, Jan Stranad, Walter Simonson, Archie Goodwin, Mobius, Gil Kane, and Gray Morrow. So the reason why I picked this one up specifically, it is the first part of the illustrated adaptation of Ridley Scott's Alien. Look at that first 2 page. I just wanted to read this. This is from Walt Simonson and Archie Goodwin, 2 greats, legends of Marvel, legends of comics. And I just wanted to check it out. I know it's just the first part of a multi-part story. Alien, one of the greatest sci-fi horror movies of all time, if not the greatest. Just some beautiful stuff in this book. So I grabbed that, as well as this National Lampoon's Comics. Great cover. Also, National Lampoon legendary magazine, legendary comedy writers, 1 and 2 and 3 page comics in here, but you get work from Gray Morrow, from John Romita, Gahan Wilson, Dick Giordano and Neil Adams, Jeffrey Jones, and Edward Gorey. So I'm excited to just check this out. I'm sure it's a lot of laughs. I want to say this is at least 40 years old or so. And the last magazine that I picked up was A Savage Sword of Conan number 5, featuring a Boris Vallejo cover, also featuring a story from Roy Thomas and John Buscema. The cover of this kind of makes me think that this is the inspiration for the Uncanny X-Men issue where Wolverine is crucified on the X. If you're really into the black and white art and you want to see some great stuff, you can pick up any issue of Savage Sword of Conan and you'll get 3 to 4 stories of just stunning art. I picked up a nice little stack of Underground comics, starting with this Apex Treasury of Underground comics. This is from 1974, featuring first page illustration by Robert Crumb. Half of this book features our Crumb stories. Art Spiegelman's in here, Spain Rodriguez, and a couple others. Something that I've been recently getting into is the Underground stuff, specifically Crumb. I knew Crumb's name for a long time. I just didn't know his comics. I knew his illustrations. I saw a lot of his bills, his poster bills, and stuff like that from San Francisco. So this was a fun find as well. Zap Comics number 7 and Zap Comics number 8. 8 features a cover from Robert Crumb. And I'm not sure it does this cover. It may be Spain Rodriguez, but there's no signature on it. Underground stuff from the 70s. It's tough to come by, so I always try and pick it up when I do. Sometimes I give these to friends who are super into it, but these days I've just been reading them and keeping them for myself. And lastly, this is Eileen and Bob's Dirty Laundry comics. Bob being Robert Crumb and Eileen being his wife. Definitely an R-rated comic. It is the Dirty Laundry, but also a lot of fun. Next up, a week doesn't go by where I don't find something from our old pal, Bill Sienkiewicz.
Sienkiewicz, Bill Sienkiewicz, Sienkiewicz, Bill Sienkiewicz.
Bill Sienkiewicz, Classics Illustrated Moby Dick. Herman Melville's Moby Dick, illustrated by the master, Bill Sienkiewicz, Mr. Sienkiewicz himself. Picked it up this week. It's in beautiful condition. And I'm interested to see if Sienkiewicz did any of the other Classics Illustrated. Maybe, maybe not. I came to a stack of old comic book store promo posters, something that I've always been a fan of. I've collected them on and off since I was a kid because they were always free. You know, as a kid, I'd be like, oh, how much is that Darkhawk poster? Ah, just take it, kid. After a while, you'd see them just in boxes at comic book stores. It's like, oh, 50 cents a piece. I came into a nice stack of vintage ones, going all the way back to the 70s through the 90s. So let me show you those right now. Oh, you're still here. Hold on. So here is the nice little loot of posters. This is just actually a little helping of it. But I got these this week at the secret spot that I'm helping out. 1977 Sal Buscema poster. Marvel superheroes, just a generic superhero poster. Miss Marvel, Thor, Human Torch, The Thing, Captain America, Spidey swinging in, and the Hulk, showing you who was really popular at the time. This one, oh God, this is so beautiful. 1983, and I believe that this is also Sal Buscema. This is Marvel Team Up starring Spiderman and the whole blamed Marvel universe. Check this out, though. Daredevil hanging onto the Silver Surfer surfboard while Black Widow sits on it. Go into a little DC, the Superpowers collection. So the figures, the TV show, all of it wrapped into the Superpowers. I'm not sure who the artist on this is. I know this is a super familiar Joker, though. Chime in on the comments if you know who it is. How about that one? The OG Secret Wars. This is the cover for Secret Wars #1. And you got Mr. Fantastic and Wolverine and Cat. Right before he gets the black suit, Spider-Man. But how about this one? Going to say that this is Neil Adams based on Batman, but it might not be all Neil Adams. So maybe it's a mix and they just kind of pasted it all together. Black Lightning, Shazam, Shazam Girl, I don't know, Green Lantern and Power Girl, Black Canary, Sergeant Rock, 1980 DC Comics poster. When we get into the 90s right here with this amazing Extinction Agenda poster. It's done on like a old style brown paper, kind of like the wanted signs of old. Wolverine, Archangel, Cable. Looks like a Jim Lee illustration. Speaking of Jim Lee, speaking of the X-Men, this I had up in my bedroom when I was a kid. Used to get this. You got these for free. This is Mutant Genesis right here. X-Men. X-Factor, and then you got Excalibur here. And then down here you got X-Force / New Mutants. And here's the Rob Liefeld, Domino. So this is just some of the posters that I got this week working at the Secret Spot. But check this out. This is one that sits on my wall. The original Infinity Gauntlet poster. All right, back to the can. So, those were the posters that I found. Now let's get into the most iconic stuff that I found this week, and technically the most expensive. Starting with The Watchmen. Alan Moore's opus of opuses. I mean, the man's got so many opuses. He's got Watchmen, he's got V for Vendetta, he's got The Killing Joke, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, the Swamp Thing run. Anyway, I've been putting together a run of Watchmen, and I'm almost complete, but these are just the ones that I picked up this week, including iconic issue number 1, beautiful art from Dave Gibbons, Watchmen number 2, Watchmen number 3, Watchmen number 9, and the last issue, Watchmen number 12, which goes really well with issue number 1. Gee, Dave Gibbons, are you a genius or what? I think I need 2 more issues to complete the first printing run. So finally, I met up with this person. They brought 2 boxes of comics. I was going to buy some Spider-Man keys. I ended up buying so much more than that. Here are the Spider-Man keys that I did get. The man covered in spiders. Web of Spider-Man number 1. Charles Vess cover. This is a newsstand copy. I love this book mostly because Charles Vess did the cover. Charles Vess had done some of the best Spider-Man stuff in the 80s. He did a Spider-Man graphic novel called Spirits of the Earth. He did Web of Spider-Man number 1 and a couple other iconic Web of Spider-Man covers, and then mixed in a couple other covers here and there. Spectacular Spider-Man number 90, which features the second appearance of the Black costume. Black Cat featured on the cover, and then you have the corner box, as you can see, is split between regular Spider-Man costume and the Black costume. Look at that last page. Spidey shows up in the Black costume, scaring the crap out of Black Cat. Also, may I note on this cover, there's a 75-foot Black Cat and a very tiny Spider-Man. I don't understand it, but I like it. How about this one? Secret Wars number 8, featuring the origin of the Black costume. The most iconic book of the 80s. This book brought in a generation of Spider-Man fans that love that Black costume. I can't think of too many comics that are synonymous with Marvel in the 80s than this Secret Wars number 8, featuring a Mike Zeck cover. Mike Zeck, the illustrator of Secret Wars. It is a newsstand copy. It's a very nice high-grade copy. And lastly, been looking for this book for a while. Amazing Spider-Man number 252. First appearance of Spider-Man in the Black costume. And this was not as popular in the 80s as Secret Wars number 8. And now that kind of tide has changed on that. This is a newsstand copy. So stoked to have it. The fact that I got all 3 of these in the same purchase from the same collection makes me super happy. Thank you for watching. I'm going to have a super big claim sale tomorrow with my buddy Dave and a couple other friends. I will be in the Bay Area, so come and say hi, buy some books, like, follow, subscribe, all that jazz. Giving away What If number 1 when we hit 500 subscribers. Check out the link tree below for links to Instagram, Whatnot, eBay, Mercari, Dave's Art Store, and a couple other things. And I hope everybody's well. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for watching. And we'll see you next week on the West Coast Avengers.